to Ghosts and Bears, the podcast where we tell you the actual ghost story with the actual history in the actual place. On this episode, we're going to Fort Rod Hill, Vancouver Island's one of two only battlements and now a national park. We'll hear the stories of the men who were there and some of the women and who's left behind. Coming up on Ghosts and Bears. Welcome and thank you for joining us. We are excited to have this kind of a two-parter episode, actually, which is a new thing for us. We have this amazing place here in Victoria. I mean, well, we have a lot of amazing places, I'm not going to lie, but we have a really specific Fort Rod Hill National Historic Site, and it's actually made up of two really cool places. There's the Fort Rod Hill, the battlements and the batteries, and we also have Fisgard Lighthouse, which is the very first lighthouse in Western Canada. Both of these are now a national park. They have a stunning view, as I'm sure you will be able to see from the picture. And I don't even know how to describe it. I have loved going there since I moved here 20 years ago. One time we used it as my son's location for his birthday party. We had this bunny and it was in military fatigues. I don't know why. And we hid the bunny and called him the missing soldier. And the game was my son and his friends had to go out and find the missing soldier. And along the way, because, you know, it's like a scavenger hunt, they would find clues, and the clues led them to Nerf guns, and then the clues led them to some treats, and then eventually the clues led them to the missing soldier, who then had instructions on getting back to the mess hall where pizza and birthday cake were waiting. It was a fantastic way of getting a bunch of kids to run around a large open field for most of the afternoon. So it was great. But besides that, it's just a beautiful place to be. It's got a really interesting feeling there that I felt right away before I ever even thought about it having ghost stories. It just sort of set off a lot of alarms for me, and not in a bad way, just in a way. And it's just this incredible place. It's incredibly cheap to go. For a annual pass, it was $16, which in American money is like $1.25. No, I'm just kidding. So it's a great thing to do. It's not that popular, really, ultimately, and it should be. Also nearby is Hatley Castle, and I'm sure we will be having an episode on that. That is actually, Hatley Castle's the site of Royal Roads University, which has been the site of filming for the X-Men movies and Deadpool. There's been actually a number of movies that ended up filming there, and TV shows. So it's definitely somewhere that will be familiar. If you look at the pictures that will come with that episode, you'll be like, oh, I know this place, but you won't really know why. That's why. We have had a great couple of weeks. We've been working on some new stuff. Jason had a pretty intense car accident and rode off our car, which wasn't great. He's fine. He got a little bit of a chemical burn from the airbag, but otherwise he's okay. So the car did exactly what it was supposed to do, and we're grateful. He's already replaced the car because he's Jason, and we actually have already traded in another one of our cars for a full electric car because, you know, that's what you do, right? Like, that's normal. No, I know it's not. It's fine. Anyway, been a busy time. We were actually back at Fort Rod Hill. We recorded the stories a few weeks ago, but we were back at Fort Rod Hill yesterday with Alex, our amazing videographer, and his team, Chris, the photographer, and Christina, who was very kind at sort of keeping people away from us. And we were filming the videos that are going to come with this episode, which will be a little after the episode releases, and also for the Lighthouse episode. So I'm excited to see what he does. If you've seen his other two videos, he's got two now. He did Agnes Bing's, and he also did one for Helmkin Alley, and the guy's good. So please check out our Ghosts and Bears YouTube channel, and you will be able to see the handiwork of Alex, because it's definitely worth seeing. So we'll be looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that. I haven't seen it yet either, so I'm really excited to see it. Other than that, life's been pretty good. We're, keeping on. I'm doing more ghost walks. I'm doing Tuesday nights and Thursday nights, and we're definitely seeing an upswing in people. The walks are an hour long now, so they're not 90 minutes, which is kind of a nice little break for the guides. But also, I think for a lot of the people just aren't up for a 90-minute ghost walk anymore. So it's actually kind of a relief for everyone involved. But they're really popular still. So people are booking online, booking at a time, and then they show up when we go for our walk. So I've really enjoyed being able to get back into the swing of things, doing that, because it's been a long time. The last time I was able to do quote unquote normal walks would have been 2 summers ago. And we were doing a modified walk back in October. So I'm just really glad it's happening. It's a lot of fun to do. So Tuesdays and Thursdays are my nights. You can catch me on those nights. But best to check first, because I do have a couple nights off. My mom's coming for a visit. So, when your mom comes for a visit, it's good to take time off, or they get upset, as I learned. No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing it because I love her. So we're going to talk about Fort Rod Hill. What makes it so unusual for our little island is that it is so old comparatively. Fort Rod Hill was first installed, or the guns were first installed in 1864, and that was to protect Esquimalt Harbor, where the Navy was. Now, the Navy originally only used Esquimalt Harbor to get water and lumber and food supplies, but then they discovered they needed to set some things up. So between 1854 and 1856, it became an active naval base for the Royal Canadian Navy. The people we needed to protect ourselves from, and I hesitate to say this because the majority of our listeners are in the wonderful United States. It was Americans. They're so rascally. This area had seen a lot of different people come through it. Americans, of course, the British were in charge then, more or less. The Spanish were up here poking around, as well as Russia was a bit of a threat coming down. So, yeah, there was some definite need for some sort of coastal defense. And when the gold rush happened in 1858, well, then they really needed to stand their ground, because a lot of different people were trying to take over it. The wars between Canada and the United States were resolved finally in 1871. But, there's a pretty good chunk of time there where nobody really knew what was going to happen. But it wasn't until after we became part of Canada in 1870 that the big fixed defenses were set up for the naval base. As I mentioned, increased tension between Russia and Canada and Britain in 1877-78 were definitely part of it. And they really wanted to make sure that we would be able to defend ourselves. They put in 5 batteries of guns. These guns were pretty powerful, but it was kind of funny because the guns weren't known for being super reliable. They were 5 tons, and they would go down behind these defenses. Now, the defenses were built into the hillside that overlooked the harbor, and they were built in 10 feet of concrete. That's how thick it was. And then these giant guns were on these pneumatic kind of elevator things. And so they would load the gun, push it up, fire it, lower it back down. Now, this sounds good because, of course, it meant that the enemy couldn't fire at the gun very easily. The downside was they could only shoot 1 shell every 2 minutes, and the pneumatic lift would leak a lot and not work. So not ideal, not going to lie. In that time, there were a lot of different people through there. Of course, there was Canadian soldiers, British soldiers. There was always, for a long time, there were people there until after World War II. In 1958, the whole thing was turned over to Parks Canada to become a national park, but it had a long history. They built different batteries, different parts of the year. The place has these super cool, they installed these searchlights in the 30s, and these searchlights were in these big kind of hidden buildings that are painted to look either like part of the hillside or look like fishing shacks, which was really neat. They had a massive generator station, of course, to power those lights. They had a big net, like an anti-submarine net across the opening of the harbor. There were mines. They took it seriously. This was a big deal. Ironically, the place never saw any action, which I think is so great that we would do that. The only action they ever saw was at some point during World War II, because of course we're going to be attacked at any time, which never happened. Sometime during World War II, someone thinks they spotted a submarine that came up and went back down and was never seen again. That's it. That is the full war record for Fort Rod Hill, which I think is marvelous. I mean, that's just so Canadian, right? They were probably like, oh, look, a sub. Oh, sorry, watch out for the net there. Yeah, I could just see it. But, you know, they took it very seriously and they did good work. So there would have been a bunch of men housed there. There were big walls around the batteries with gun slits in them. Like this was a big deal. They took this really, really seriously. It, as I said, didn't see a whole lot of action, but it does seem to have had a lot of human history there and history that has stuck around. We took Andrea there. You may recall Andrea from our Helmkin House episode. She helped out with the book, Victoria's Most Haunted. She's a good friend. And so I knew Andrea would be perfect to come and chat with us about what her team and she has experienced there. We could sort of compare things. We had a really interesting time, which I'll talk about afterwards when we were there shooting the video, because it was nothing we'd planned or expected. And yeah, it was interesting. It was really interesting. So I'll fill you in on that after story time. But for right now, we're just going to jump into it. We're going to have our story time at Fort Rod Hill, and we can follow it up right after the story. So I hope you enjoy it as we go back in time and we meet some of the past residents of Fort Rod Hill. Hey everyone, we are here as promised for story time at Fort Rod Hill. And I have to say, this is probably one of my favorite national parks in Canada. It's just so beautiful. You can wander around. We're going to turn this place actually into 2 episodes because it is Fort Rod Hill and Fisgard Lighthouse. But we're going to do all of our story time recording for that today on both days so that we have enough material. I am not here by myself, other than the spirits of the long dead. I'm also here with
Jason
and Andrea from Unearthing Shadows Paranormal.
We have Andrea back, which we're very happy about. It's you know, in real life it was like a couple weeks ago, but in podcast life it's like 7 weeks ago. So this is a long time. This place is incredibly rich in history. There's been a military presence here since we first showed up on these shining shores. I think early 1800s was when they opened the first thing. And as a result, lots of people have come and gone through here. Andrea and her team have done a paranormal investigation here. So, I'm guessing, there might be something. What do you think, Jay?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. This place has rich history. Right now we're in the upper battery. Andrea, can you tell us a bit about what you've felt here and what you've discovered?
Absolutely. I would definitely agree. The history here is amazing, and I personally feel this is one of the most active places in all of Victoria. There's quite a bit of different paranormal activity here. But one of my first memories was actually in the upper guardhouse here. I guess my first experience investigating here was with a local paranormal team who was doing a public event. So me and one of the other team members were here. And in here, me and a gentleman with the group were doing a ghost box session, and this gentleman came through, and it was incredible. It was one of the best experiences ever, like getting complete sentences. To me, it seemed very credible. We were communicating with the spirit.
Now, can you tell me, for anybody who doesn't know, what is a ghost box? How does that work?
Sure. It's, well, there's a few variations of it, but it basically is picking up the white noise. It's just sweeping through all the radio stations in AM and FM.
Right.
And it's very quick, so it's like beep, 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 beep. So the theory is anything that crosses over those beeps is not coming from a radio station, and we're getting something from the white noise.
Right.
So in the paranormal world, we like to associate it with hopefully the spirit that we're communicating with.
Right, yeah. So what happened?
So it was like a good 20-minute session, and we were getting direct responses to the questions we were asking. And it was a good lesson for me because this gentleman was associating himself with the base here, that he was in the military,
Right.
Late 1800s. And I made the mistake of asking, when did you pass away? Well, that's the first time I've been told off by a spirit.
Really?
Oh, with uncertain terms, I was told, don't be stupid, and everybody just silenced. And I'm like, I am so sorry. And from that point on, I learned be a little respectful in how you, because not everybody knows, right?
I was going to say, so is that what the interpretation of that was? He didn't know he was dead.
He didn't know, I think.
And he was very angry about it.
He was not happy with me whatsoever. And after that, he wouldn't really.
He wouldn't talk.
No. And if he did respond to anything, it was very short and snippy.
Really?
But the other gentleman, he just carried on answering questions.
So not only was he intelligent, he was also quite moody.
Oh, very much so. And I definitely, walked away with my tail between my legs.
Wow.
Being like, be careful how you ask from now on.
It's a bit like,
So-
I know when I used to do work in prisons, I learned very early on, you never say, so what did you do? You say, what are you in for? Right?
Exactly like that.
So I guess it's kind of the same principle. You don't say, so when did you die? And they're like, screw you, man.
Yeah, exactly.
What
So
sort of information did he give you?
he was giving us information related to his position on the base. We got a date from him, which I can't remember offhand, but it was around, he gave us 2 dates of the late 1800s. And I think 1926 was another date that really stuck out.
Oh, interesting.
And we also were getting 1896, which is the building around the corner here. So we assumed he was talking about that building.
Right.
And when he was just talking about, there was some things that came through associated with the intelligence. He came across sounding like an older gentleman with not really an accent, but it just came through like, maybe a bit of an English accent.
Right,
slightly.
which would make sense.
Makes sense
Yeah,
being-
yeah.
And that also came through. We asked, are you Canadian or are you from somewhere else? And English came up a few times. So those were some of the things that came through. And proud. There was a lot
Right.
of references to being proud and serving his country. And
Right. That's
so
great.
we thought that was pretty significant, getting those responses.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's real intelligent responses.
That's by far the best experience I've ever had with
Wow.
communications.
That
like,
is
and-
powerful.
And it was about 25 minutes.
Holy
Wow.
smokes.
Yeah, it was quite.
That's intense.
Yeah, usually we're pretty lucky if we can get
Like a couple words and 1 or 2 intelligent responses kind of thing.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
5 minutes is like the holy grail. But
Yeah.
that was just significant and amazing, and we were so grateful to
He
have
was there.
that.
He was chatty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except not with you, because.
Until I upset him again. I'm so sorry.
Are there any other stories about this? What'd you call it again, Jay?
It's battery.
Upper battery. Because we've talked about all the different parts of this in the history section. So you know where we are. So there's the upper battery. There's the lower battery where most of the munitions were and the guns and the lights and all that stuff ready for. And then there's another couple parts of this place as well, like the generator room and radio
Yes.
room and the mapping and all that. So do you have any other stories for this upper battery?
Well, we've always had a lot of success around the corner here in the 1896 lower. It was kind of a multi-use room. There was
Right.
ammunition used there. It was kind of a fun little hangout spot for the soldiers.
Yeah.
And there's a back corner there, and you can find orbs there, but you have to be careful because sometimes you just get the water droplets and
Right,
you get
right,
excited
right,
over
right.
nothing.
Yeah.
But you will see flashes and orbs and something quickly moving past the window when you first walk down the stairs. But in the back left corner, there's definitely something there. We've been in there multiple times where we've had somebody stand by us and we've picked it up on camera.
Wow.
You can see a shadow walk behind you. You just feel like somebody's standing next to you.
Yeah.
The K2 works really well in that room.
Yeah.
And we haven't really had a lot of luck with the spirit box or any of the direct voice communication.
Right.
But visuals, definitely. Energetic presence, definitely.
Wow.
And pretty much any time, I would say 9 times out of 10, you will experience something in there.
Interesting.
And it's not, you feel bad going in there. Like, I always felt like somebody was hurt, and other people on the team felt the same. And then we were, there was some psychic mediums who said that they picked up a gentleman who had been injured on the base quite significantly. Didn't pass away from his injuries, but he was there. They said that he was embarrassed or upset that whatever happened. So we think that might be who's there, but we're not sure. But the feelings and visuals seem to would point in that direction.
Now, I remember a story about some young ladies. Was that here or was that somewhere else?
I don't really remember any stories, to be honest, about young ladies.
I think I put it in the book. I think I only wrote it. Maybe it was someone else who told me the story, but it was here. It was up in this area, which makes sense when you say that room is for hanging out. And they were 2 young sex workers from Victoria. Does that ring a bell?
Not that particular story, but I had been told by the rangers here that room was, in fact, used for
the recreation room.
Yes, the ladies' room, and that's in the right quadrant of that. It's kind of like a L-shaped area. Yeah. But you kind of walk into that room, and without even knowing that, I always remember just being like, "There's a really odd feeling in here."
Yeah, and apparently both of them are gone, and may actually indeed have passed away on the base. And of course, none of that would be official or recorded or anything else like that in the proud tradition of military cover-ups. But I thought that was really interesting. And apparently they're just happy, freewheeling, loving life, like being here. There's no upset about them. They're just here and living their lives, and they're party girls. That's what they are. So that's kind of nice. At least they're not, upset and weepy like some other ghosts we're going to talk about when we move down to the second battlement.
Yes, definitely.
All right. We're going to head down there, and we'll be right back. All right, Andrea, here we are. Second lower battlement. Is that right, Jade? Am I using the right terms? You're the military guy.
Yes, it is a battery.
Battery. And this battery, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of weapons, a lot of guns, a lot of lights, all those sorts of things. You went there with your team. What did you guys experience down there?
Well, that's an area that we find the K2 works incredibly well.
Oh, okay. And talk about K2.
So the K2, it's just a really simple device. It picks up EMF. It's got lights going from yellow to green to red. So we can use it as just a detection device if something's around us.
Right.
Or as a yes or no. It's pretty much something we will always have on us, and we pair it with other equipment because it really just works well. It's a great visual, especially when you're in dark locations like here. Yeah. And for some reason, that just seems to work really well on the base here in general, but especially in that area, like in the underground armory there. Yes.
Now, I've had my own feelings down there, but please go on, and I'll talk about mine after.
Yeah, it's an interesting place because, like, you walk in there, and pretty much anybody who's been with me when we've checked it out feels the same, where it's just you get this, like, you're always looking over your shoulder being like, there is somebody here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
it's heavy. It's heavy, too. It's not a happy feeling. It's a heavy feeling.
No, and it's also, I maybe feel a little bit protective, like, get out. You're not supposed to be in here.
Right.
But when you first walk in, you'll see these windows in between a wall that separates. And sometimes you'll catch something going by the other side of the wall, and you walk around and you're like, well, there's nobody else in here, and there really isn't anywhere because it's a T-shaped, and so at the ends it's locked. So you if anybody were to try, you would definitely hear them. So you're always kind of doing that, checking around. We have seen orbs with our eyes
Okay.
in there. It is a hard location to catch them on film just because you're getting a lot of film glare and
Right. Yeah.
that, but you can see them with your eyes. And we just find for some reason at the end of so if you walk in on the right T, that's a very active place for the K2. So we've been in there for like 45 minutes, and the K2 has been going off nonstop. And
now is it reacting to what you're saying, or it's
Yes.
just going off?
yeah, we will always ask a question and wait a few seconds, and we are always very clear about please light it up to the red for a no or the green for a yes.
Oh, wow.
And,
Okay.
one thing I always found, it's just me in particular, when I feel a presence, my left arm gets super cold.
Right.
And my hairs will stand up on my arm, and it's just like I
Right.
feel like there's somebody here.
Yeah.
And so we kind of tested that theory out one day. And I said, I'm like, I feel something, there's something here. And then I was holding the K2 in my right hand, and sure enough, it just reacted. It was just like, we just announced, can you come close to it to show that you're here? Because the K2 has a small perimeter, but if something's in your personal space,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely wouldn't be COVID friendly right now.
No, not at all. Even if you're a ghost, just stay away from me.
Definitely. Yeah, it'll react, and it'll just light up to whatever it'll light up.
Yeah.
And so then that's when we start asking questions. But
Right.
there was definitely, we for some reason led into questions about, there seemed to be a gentleman again associated with the base. His wife, we were trying to use a spirit box too, and a little bit came up. That's why we were basing questions off
Right.
words
right.
that were coming
right.
up.
Right.
Also, we were using the ovilus.
Yeah. What's that?
So the ovilus is basically a phonetic word generator.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite piece of device, but I
Right.
know lots of people really like it.
Yeah.
But it is good in a sense. Like, it'll bring up words. You can use it in multiple ways, and it'll bring up other languages too.
Oh,
It is
cool.
limited, but it's nice
Yeah, yeah.
for the main languages.
Yeah.
And so it's sometimes helpful. It'll, if just something random will pop up and you're like, okay, guitar, I don't know, or gun or something like
Right,
that popped
right.
up, then you're like, okay, let's maybe just see if we get any hits off that.
Sure.
So that's kind of what triggered it. And then we were getting thoughts and feelings and devices and all these things that were connecting to a wife
Right.
and a ring and a missing ring. And he was really upset trying to find this ring for his wife. And so the best we can conclude, we thought it was a gentleman from the base who missed his wife, and this ring was super important to him.
Right. And that's why he's stuck.
Yeah, and he felt he just wanted to tell his story.
Right.
But we did feel that there was something in that secondary little hall
Yeah,
that goes
yeah,
nowhere. We
yeah.
felt something was watching us there and was not happy we were there.
Oh.
It was very, like, we all were like, we need to get out. We just felt really antsy and just like, we need to get out.
Yeah.
And there was 4 of us at this particular time, 4 of us in there. We all kind of said at the same time, we're just like, we really feel like something is like, get
Yeah.
out, we don't want you in here.
Yeah.
And when we walked out, the lights started turning out behind us, which
Oh.
they aren't supposed to do.
Well, that's pretty clear.
So that was a good indication.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah.
I think that was also the place where I had someone else tell me when they were down there, they discovered a spirit that had committed suicide. It was a gentleman. And when they tried to say to him, do you want to go? He was like, no, I don't deserve it. This is what I deserve. So even in death, he was still punishing himself for it. So pretty sad.
Makes me wonder. There's like in the entertainment
Yeah.
area.
Entertainment.
or the other one, the one that there was no hanky panky.
Oh, okay.
There's a gentleman there that we've encountered, and this was again on that public investigation we were on.
Yeah.
We were using all the equipment, and the psychic mediums also detected a
Yeah.
gentleman who unfortunately took his life there, and the same.
Okay.
We
yeah.
tried to send him some love and to move him on, and he
But
just was like,
no.
nope.
Maybe that's
So-
the story that I remember, yeah.
I wonder. I've heard a few stories of that, something similar on the base.
Yeah, well,
so-
it'd be pretty lonely here. I mean, when you look at it in relation to where Victoria was, we're in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now, Colwood and Langford kind of bank up onto it, but back then, this was a long haul to get out here, and there was nothing going on.
Thinking of my time here, I definitely felt some presence in the Master Gunner's house. What are your thoughts on that?
I've heard a lot of incredible stories, and I've tried.
Ooh, tell us some.
Yeah, please.
Tell us some, please.
Well, That's where I have heard that there's a woman there, and I've
Okay.
also heard that there is a general. I believe it was a general that's
Right.
there. I guess when people are in the Authentics and use the washrooms at night and go in there,
Yeah,
they
makes
like to
sense.
make themselves known and scare the crap out of people.
Oh my gosh.
When we did stay here overnight that one time, and I was hoping.
Yeah, but no.
I personally haven't experienced anything. One of the girls on the team said that she saw a woman in the upper window.
Right.
Wow.
So and it seemed pretty credible the way she described this woman seemed to be maybe from the Victorian era.
Yeah.
I think I remember her explaining her with like a bun, brown hair. But she just
long
said she
skirt
was.
kind of deal.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think she saw her from like kind of the waist up.
Oh,
And
okay,
I
yeah.
remember her saying it was like just not clothing you'd see today.
No.
And she thought it was weird. She's like, this woman was just staring. And anyways, so it was
Interesting.
quite a story.
Because
That's interesting.
that house isn't open all the time, but when it is, and I've gone in there, definitely felt like you're in someone's home.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not an empty building. There are people in there. So, yeah, that's interesting. That's a good point.
Yeah, well, I know I felt something when I was photographing it the last time I was here. And
Yeah, yeah.
It,
And
just, it felt unsettled.
And those pictures will be up for our Buy Me a Coffee people, $5
Yeah,
and up.
100%.
Jason will be putting those in there. So any place we're talking about today, you can see in that window to the episode. Of course, we always have our free video on YouTube, which you can check out usually before the episode. But yeah, our window to the episode pictures will have that in there for sure. Is there anywhere else in the battlements before we move on to the All Hallowed Lighthouse and next episode that you want to talk about before we move out of here?
Well, I was going to say, just if anybody wants like a light experience, go to the engine room. That's
Oh, that's cool.
a cool place. We visit here quite often just to check things out. And then even with the doors shut, yes, there's a bit of a draft in there, but the hanging lights just will start swinging back and then instantly stop. It's pretty cool. And then like you'll kind of get the sense you'll hear footsteps in there.
Yeah.
And you just really get the presence that there's more than usually one or two. We kind of get the feeling that somebody's still there working.
Wow.
And yes, it does have a smell to it, but then sometimes like that diesel smell will smell different. It'll just smell like some engine just started up and you're just like, where is this coming from? And
Right.
there's, fun little things. If you pay attention, you'll definitely notice something in there.
You know what? I think that is probably the best advice you can give to anybody who wants to do paranormal investigations. If you pay attention,
Oh, 100%.
right? Because a lot of times it is very subtle. It's very small. And for me, it starts with that awareness of, oh, something's here.
Oh, 100%. Like even that big like spotlight that they have in there.
Yeah.
Like it was even enough for me one time. I just wasn't really paying attention because I'm like, yeah, whatever. I know stuff's going on here.
Yeah.
And there was somebody who walked up behind me and I thought it was one of the girls.
Right.
They were all outside. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice after. Because I went out and asked them. I said, oh,
Who came in?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, no, nobody.
yeah. They're like, Andrew, we've been staying out here for like 10 minutes. And I'm like,
Wow.
oh, well then, okay.
Wow.
But-
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, it shows you just pay attention. It's there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was that's a good point. That Gunner's house. I always forget about that house. There's another little building right near the wall of the lower battery that they used as the canteen. And I've been in there a few times, and there's definitely still stuff going on. There's still energy moving around there. So I think this place, ultimately, this place was home, at least temporarily, to a lot of people. And it was very isolated. So, and this isn't the first time I've heard of a place along the coast here being so heavily haunted. Like William Head Federal Penitentiary,
Right.
totally haunted. They used it as a quarantine point for the Chinese immigrants because they were, worried about disease or whatever. So that's how William Head got its start.
Wow.
And apparently it wasn't great conditions. And now it's a federal penitentiary, so also not great energy.
No.
So there's a few places along the coast here like that. But yeah. All right, so now we're going to, if you have anything else, no, you're good?
No, I'm pretty good. I was just
Okay.
gonna make one comment.
Yeah,
I
please.
find the energy here is pretty. It's even though there's some heaviness here,
Yeah.
it does seem like there's a lot of spirits that are happy being here at
Yeah,
home
I
because
agree with you.
Yeah, I agree with
all
that.
the wildlife seems
I
to
can
get peace
feel it.
here.
There's a camaraderie. That's the word that
Yes.
keeps coming into my
Yeah,
head. Camaraderie. A bond. though things may be different for them now, they still feel like they belong.
Yeah. And protecting, I think.
Yeah, and protective of this place too. Yeah, for sure.
That seems to be the common message we always get when we're doing some sort of investigating here. It's just like we're still doing our job.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, 100%, which is, wow, pretty intense.
I think it's all the birds as well. It keeps it peaceful.
And the deer.
Yeah, the deer that wander through.
Yeah.
And the Gary Oaks. It's really a nice place to visit.
Yeah. I actually love coming here just to come and hang out.
It's peaceful.
Yeah.
You know, I think they felt at peace. That's what we're feeling.
Yeah.
It's reminiscent of a time gone past where like my grandfather and my great-grandfather, who served in World War II and World War I respectively, you know, there was trauma to be dealt with, and I know my late grandfather, those sort of traumatic events when he served in the Navy, it was kind of, you just dealt with it. That was, you deal with it.
Yeah.
And I saw a paradigm shift in his behavior in the early 2000s, and he was the most peaceful guy. I didn't actually know him that well because I grew up with him in the 80s and 90s, and just everything had to be just so was suddenly gone, and I got a glimpse into why my grandmother fell in love with him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because all of that trauma kind of started to drift away.
So maybe there is kind of this ongoing nationwide peace in the early 2000s. That's why this place has that deep, heavy set tone.
Yeah.
But in regard to just the time gone by and recognition that there is more peace out there.
Yeah, and you know, I think the peacefulness was kind of a cornerstone of being out here, ironically, because this, as much money as they sunk into all of this, it never saw action. There was one instance where they thought a Japanese sub maybe surfaced, but they never actually confirmed that. But they used to practice the gunneries and break all the windows in Esquimalt, and you know, that was just part of the culture here. But they never actually engaged in battle here, and maybe that has something to do with the peacefulness that's here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
They were always ready.
They were always ready. They were doing their job. You know, they were good to go. But no, they never actually experienced that kind of trauma that would have been in other theaters of war. So, yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I got some fantastic medals from my grandfather that I inherited. I love them. He served on the Swansea in the Atlantic, and they sunk some U-boats.
There you go.
Looking at the history of that vessel, he was right. It was the most successful.
Sorry to our German listeners.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is what it is, right?
I know.
It's interesting that after such time, we recognize peace. You know, we lay down our arms and recognize the greater good, I think.
Yeah. No, it's good.
I'm grateful to be able to share that story, that little tidbit.
Thank you.
It's a nice story.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so we're going to pack things up, head on over to the lighthouse, and we have lots of stories there. Andrea has stories, I have stories, there's general stories. We'll get Jason impressions too, because you haven't been over there a whole lot, right?
So no, I haven't. Just once.
So when we're walking over there, be open, see what you're feeling, and we'll go from there, because unfortunately, unlike this place, which didn't have a lot of official recorded deaths, I mean, they were happening, but they weren't official. That place has at least 2. So and lighthouse keepers, you want to talk taking your job seriously? That's what they did. All right, we're going to head over there, and we'll be back in a moment. Thank you so much for going with us to Fort Rod Hill. Thanks to Andrea Bailey for going with us. You can find her at Unearthing Shadows Paranormal. Andrea's just great. Like, she's just got such a great spirit, such a great heart, amazing energy. She's been just a real gift not only to the kind of work I do and the stories I enjoy, but just generally. She's just a great person. So I'm really glad she was able to join us. And you can look forward to hearing more of her on our next episode because, we're off to Fisgard Lighthouse. So that'll be really fun too. So the thing that happened that was really interesting. So we went to Fort Rod to do the filming a couple days ago. And I was getting tired because I'm old and lazy. And Alex came out from behind one of the particular buildings. It was like the commander's house. And I'm getting that wrong. I'm probably crossing my wires with too much Handmaid's Tale, but you know what I mean. And he came back out from being back there, and he said to Andrea, "Hey, have you ever gone into the backyard area, like the wood storage?" And she said no. And he goes, "Well, it's open." And she's like, "Oh, great." So they head back there, and I'm just sitting there talking to Jason and Christina and Chris, and we're talking away. And then Andrea comes out and says, "Hey, do you want to go back here with me?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Why? What's it like?" And she said, "I'm not going to tell you." I'm like, "Oh, okay, great." So we go in there, and I walk in, and I just back up. It was so heavy. And she opens this one door. So if you go in, there's sort of a little courtyard, and one side's all open where they would have stored their firewood, and the other there's this door. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that was something bad. That wasn't good. Something bad. And I could really feel it. It was like I was feeling tense, and I was sad, and I was not feeling good, and it wasn't good at all. And she goes, and she kept, as I'm saying all this, she keeps looking at Alex, and Alex is filming all this. And she said, I opened that door, and for me, I just felt like two little kids were in there, and they were sick. They weren't feeling well. They were throwing up. They were really ill. They were hungry. They were cold. They were scared. And she goes, "I don't know what happened, but it definitely left an impression." So that was kind of cool. I mean, honestly, whenever you go somewhere with Andrea, something weird's going to happen. Like, bless her heart. It's just the way it is. And it's great. It's fun because she and I share a very similar view of all this, where we really do feel compassion because these people are not just people. They are actually, they're just regular human beings who don't happen to have a body right now. So that's really the way we look at it. So it's kind of nice when you're with someone else and you experience something and you can interpret it the same way and respond to it the same way. So that was Fort Rod Hill, and I really hope you enjoyed it. I do hope you visit it when you get up here. Make a day of it. Like, honestly, pack a picnic. The views of the Olympic Mountains, spectacular from up there. So definitely check it out. I want to thank everybody for being our coffee buyers, buying us a coffee. You were kind, you were gracious, and we're so grateful. I mean, you're the reason we were able to go to different places and buy the equipment we have. So thank you for that. Specifically for this week, I want to thank Carolyn and Carla for jumping on board with us and buying us some coffee. You can either do it as a one-time thing or as a monthly thing. We've got different levels. You get different bonuses. We're going to have our, I call them modern seances coming up soon, where we get together on Zoom and just talk about whatever, ask questions, share stories, whatever. It's actually a lot of fun. So we'll be doing that coming up soon for the month of July. Check out our YouTube channel. As I said, Alex is making amazing stuff, far better than anything I could make. That's a given. But also, honestly, better than anything I could even thought of. Like, I didn't even have a idea of the kind of stuff he's putting out. So I'm really, really, really grateful. We have been having a lot of fun doing this. And again, it's all because of you. So if you are not in a position to help us out with the coffee fund, please do what you can to share the podcast, get the word out. It makes a massive difference when people share it on a personal level. We would be so grateful. Just share it, get it out there, recommend it to friends, whatever you want to do. As well, rate it, review it, whatever on iTunes. Give us that 5-star rating. We'd be very grateful for that as well, because that bumps you up in the numbers. And when you're bumped up in the numbers, then more people see you. So I need to start doing some more on our social media, because oh, it's a hungry beast. It just constantly needs to be fed. So I'm going to work on that some more and do that. But boy, that's a lot of work. And I want to thank everyone for emailing us, sharing their stories, sharing their own experiences. Please do that as well. We'd love to hear from you. ghostsandbears@gmail.com. You can find our website, ghostsandbears.com. You can find us on Instagram. We're on Facebook. So for sure, do come and say hi, check us out. Let us know that you're listening. Let us know what you like. I'd love to hear it. Again, our goal really is to eventually go to where you guys want us to go. Hopefully where you are and where you live, where you know the history and a great ghost story. We would love to do that. Right now, we're just sticking close to home because, well, that's what we need to do as COVID enters into a different phase. And we're just hoping that soon the border will open up and we can head to the States. I'm not going to lie, it's mostly because of Red Lobster and Trader Joe's, but we also love traveling through the States too. So we're looking forward to doing that. And that will open up a whole new pile of stories. So please do send those suggestions in because we would love to come and see you and do that. This whole podcast, the whole point of this is that we're building this community. That's really what we want to do. And you can be as much of it as you like, or you can be that quiet kid in the back who just takes it all in. That's good too. That's usually the kind of kid I am. So I get it. And let's build it together. Let's make this happen. As I said, Jay and I are having a blast. If you did see the pictures of the car accident, you may have noticed the Ghosts and Bears magnets on the side of the car. I did manage to rescue those. So if any of you have been losing sleep over that, yeah, no, I know. Please know we did manage to rescue them. So I'm sure they will show up on another car soon. Again, thank you, everyone. We are so grateful for your support. So grateful for you helping us out. I think you'll notice on this episode, that was our first time using the microphones that we had bought. So, still learning, but we're using them. Oh no, that was our second time because we used them with Danny and the guys up in up north. So, but Andrea was a great sport about wearing it, and I think the sound turned out pretty good on this one, much better than it has when it's just been one mic and Ian forgetting to move it around. So you can't go wrong with that, right? So we're happy about that. So I think that's all I have to say. I know it can go on and on because that's what I do. Like I said, next episode, lighthouses. They're creepy, isolated, and often deserted. And almost all of them seem to be haunted. Fiskard Lighthouse is no exception, and I'm looking forward to that. I have a thing about lighthouses. I don't know why. I always have. Some might say the shape. I don't think so. Lighthouses for me have always been a fascination. Probably the isolation and what people went through to staff them. I got given a book called Lights of the West, and it was all about how the first lighthouses on the West Coast and their keepers, the very first keepers, sort of a history of those things. And oh my God, these things are tragic. The government thought these were super enviable positions to be awarded to political cronies and party supporters. But the reality was you weren't paid enough. It was a 24-hour-a-day job, and it was pretty miserable. The stories of these poor people, they managed to scrape up enough money to buy a flippin' goat, and then the first storm that comes along blows it off the rock. Like, just terrible. And if they did manage to be happy, and I think there was one story where they actually were happy, then some horrible maritime tragedy would befall them, and they would end up, dying in front of their family. Good times. The book left an impression on me, I'm not going to lie. And so when I got to go to Fiskard Lighthouse and I put that in the Victoria's Most Haunted book, I was not surprised at all to hear about the ghost stories associated with it. And I think you'll find them interesting too. Anyway, there you go. If you have lighthouse stories in particular, we'd love to hear them. But if you have old military forts or battleground stories, send them in. It would be great to share them with everybody else. Thank you for joining us. Again, have the absolute best day, week, night, whatever you're doing. And remember, please, we got the actual ghost stories with the actual history and the actual place. And hopefully one day that place will be with you. Take care. Bye.